Hello everyone, this is part 34 of What If Naruto Had the Ultimate Dojutsu, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Hokage's personal training ground. It's time you learned what happened between us, the Bayou, the Rikudo Sennin and Sato Saranzo, Kyuubi said, making Naruto and Kasumi widen their eyes. Keep in mind that this story is quite old, so some events you might not know about. Also, we can't tell you Sato's real name until you have acquired the last sword, but we can at least tell you this. It will be greatly essential to you in the future, Nanabe said, and Naruto folded his arms and his legs. He really had been excited to learn about the battle between the father of ninjutsu and this Sato guy. For the Rikudo Sennin to challenge Kami's son. That had to be something else entirely. Naruto would have paid to witness something like that. Alright then. I'll try to pay attention to all the important details, so please start, Naruto said, and the three female Bayou started. Meanwhile, Naruto's four swords, Reiga, Yugisa, Fukun, and Tyron spoke to Naruto, telling him that they would fill in certain events when the story was over. Also, Tsukasa was telling Kasumi to be prepared, as this story happened when Sato had Tsukasa under his control. Are you both ready? Nibi asked, and Naruto along with Kasumi nodded their heads. The three Bayou did their hand signs and the ground. Immediately the world around Naruto and Kasumi began to fade to black before they saw various images. With the Rikudo Sennin past, Naruto and Kasumi watched in awe of the land as it was those many years ago, or at least in the region they were in. Kyuubi told Naruto that the place they were in was the place of Konoha, and Naruto widened his eyes. It was nothing like Konoha at all. There was no village, trees dominated the area, and there were dozens if not hundreds of houses with one man walking through the trees at a slow pace. He walked like a truly wise and powerful figure, Naruto and Kasumi could assume. His black, short hair went down to his neckline with two pointed hair horns showing. Naruto and Kasumi could see that he was wearing a long cloak with a high collar showing his necklace with 6 red magatama. Naruto could see that they were similar to the tomo of the Sharingan. There was even the same designs over the back of his cloak and above that appeared to be a dojutsu eye that even Naruto didn't know, but he could fathom a guess. Kyuubi-chan, is that the Rinnegan? Naruto asked, and Kyuubi nodded her head. That's right. The dojutsu of the Rikudo Sennin. Said to be passed down in the Uzumaki clan, Kyuubi said to him. Nanabe, Nibi and Kasumi stayed silent, and so did Naruto when Kyuubi shushed him. They had to watch. It took all the Bayou and their concentration to maintain this image, and if they got distracted then it would be hard to get back, so Naruto and Kasumi stayed silent while Kyuubi explained. This was back to when the Rikudo Sennin stopped being the Jinchuriki of the Juubi. It's sometime before his death. Now looks there, Kyuubi said while Naruto and Kasumi watched. They looked to see the Rikudo Sennin taking a rest against a tree while he closed his eyes. He had been traveling for a long time, and now was the time to take a break. The Sage of Six Paths sighed as he looked at the sun. Something about it just made the day peaceful. He loved peace. Everyone should experience it. That's why he went around teaching people about chakra and the beginnings of ninjutsu. He hoped that this would lead to the peace that he desired. The sage closed his eyes and smiled. Hey old man, would you stop for a second? Someone called, making the sage open his eyes. He turned to see 9 figures walking up to him. All middle-aged people. He gave a small smile to them all. The divided 9 Bayou. Shukaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Chome, Gyuki and Kurama. All the Bayou of his Juubi that he separated. I'm not that old, Shukaku. Show some respect, the sage said while Kyuubi bopped Ichibi over the head with a sigh. She really hated being around company like him, but what could she do about it? Sorry Gigi, you know how this is, Kyuubi said, and the elderly sage gave a chuckle while nodding his head. It's alright Kurama. I know where Shukaku's heart is, he said, and Kyuubi nodded while the other 8 sat around the sage like they always did. When they were made, the sage told them that he wanted them to go and find their own way in the world, but no one really wanted to. So much to the sage's ire they stayed with him and traveled. It all wasn't that bad. Kyuubi, Nibi and Nanabi got to be like real sisters even if the one in the middle was as perverted as they came. So old man, where are you going now? Any place good? Shukaku asked while Kokuo sighed. Shukaku being the youngest out of everyone was just a letdown. Old man this, old man that, the sage was the brat's father for crying out loud. Get some respect in, why not? Just let Tusan rest, Shukaku. He's not like us, so just calm down, Rokubi said, and Ichibi growled before merely nodding his head. Everyone sighed while the god of shinobi smiled, letting the sun shine over his face. The present Kyubi, Nibi and Nanabi smiled at the scene, remembering the event. They all didn't have a care in the world at that time. Kyubi had to be the most responsible out of them all along with Gyuki. It was such a pain, but she was happy. You all seem to be happy, lots of fun, Kasumi said, looking at the laughing Bayu who looked like nothing but happy humans who were having a good time with their father. Nanabi and Nibi giggled while Kyubi and Naruto smiled. Yeah, those were the days, I suppose, but this isn't the part. We'll have to move along, Kyubi said, and Naruto sighed, wanting to look at the nice scene a little more, but he and Kasumi nodded their heads while Kyubi jumped him a few more months prior to the sage's day of relaxation. Here, now pay attention to this right here, Nibi said while Naruto and Kasumi seemed eager to see everything. The sage was out of the forest and now he was in a crowded area and there was bickering in the middle of the streets as the Rokudaime Hokage and his companion looked on. Hey you, apologize for bumping the old man. Watch where you're going, Shukaku yelled while the other 8 tended to the sage. Everyone looked to see a man with a sword at his waist. He glared at the sage who was busy dusting himself off. Shukaku, I am fine. I was in the wrong as well. Come on, I have to return to my sons immediately, the sage said, and Shukaku growled. He nodded and snorted while walking away. HMPHL mortal. He's lucky I don't do worse to him for touching me with those filthy hands, the man said, and Shukaku stopped. That's it. I'm KU. Shukaku said, charging at Sato in a maniacal laugh. Everyone widened their eyes while the sage glared. Shukaku took in wind and his stomach. Futen, Renkuden no Jutsu, wind release, drilling air bullet, Shukaku yelled, sending the fierce winds towards the strange man. Said man snorted at the coming winds that surprised so many people while taking out his sword. Know your place. Jishin, quake, the man took his sword and unleashed a fierce blast of light that blinded Shukaku. Everyone narrowed their eyes and before long they saw Shukaku skidding across the ground into a building, giving it a loud explosion. Shukaku. Matatabi yelled as she went to go check on him. Shukaku growled while kicking off the debris as the sage got to his feet. The man looked at him and smiled. Trash should stick together, don't you think? Sato asked, and the sage narrowed his eyes. He wasn't about to fight a senseless fight. He would gain nothing for it and it would go against all that he believed in about peace. He knew it was his fault, so he let it go. I'm sorry for the trouble that Shukaku has caused, the sage of 6 paths said while Sato took an impassive smirk. He placed his sword at his shoulders and snorted. Why Kar-sama allowed you to copy our source of power is beyond me. Trash will always be trash, he said, and the sage narrowed his eyes. What is your name? He asked, and the man chuckled. Naruto and Kasumi narrowed their eyes while they could see the slight pain in Kyubi, Nibi and Nanabi's eyes, but it had to be seen, for those two. Be honored, mortal. I shall tell you my name to take away your curiosity. My name is, Naruto and Kasumi say, the vision in front of them distort as his name wasn't mentioned. They both turned to Kyubi, Nanabi and Nibi, who shook their heads. Naruto and Kasumi turned back to him while shrugging his shoulders. Well, in your native language then you can call me Sato Saranzo, Sato said, and Naruto widened his eyes. This guy was around for that long. He was around since the Rikido Sennin. He had to be older than Kyubi herself. Hell, he might have been just as old as the Rikido Sennin himself, if not older. Sato Saranzo, I see. Then I'll remember that, the Rikido Sennin said, walking off while the Bayu followed him. People murmured about the man of honor and the powerful swordsman as they went their separate ways. We didn't see him for another few months. I can't tell you why we met him again, as it has to do with the Rikido Sennin himself. It would really be best if he told you, Kyubi said, and Naruto looked at her like she was insane along with Kasumi. But he's isn't he? Kasumi asked while Kyubi, Nanabi and Nibi smiled. For now, just take our words for it, Nibi said, making Naruto and Kasumi merely nod absently as Kyubi flashed forward again about 5 months. Naruto and Kasumi could easily tell that the Rikudo Sennin was angry. He actually looked beyond angry. His Rinnegan was flashing dangerously while he and the Bayu were glaring at Sato. You went through such extreme lengths to get me out here, the sage said, and Sato grinned as he pointed his sword at the god of shinobi. That's right, I did. You might be the only piece of trash who knows where they are. Tell me now and I promise not to kill you too fast, Sato said while the Kurama narrowed her eyes. Don't think that you can take on all of us, she said while Shukaku growled lowly at the man. Sato laughed audaciously at them all like they all couldn't comprehend who they were facing. Naruto and Kasumi could feel the ki in the air between everyone. It was almost too much. He was sure that not even a fight of the Shodaime from the individual villages could be this high. Kasumi sweated while gripping Naruto's collar. It was obvious to both Kyubi, Nibi and Nanabi that the two were in complete awe and shock. I have promised your mother that I wouldn't tell you. Those as selfish as you could never grasp the true meaning of peace. You even went so far as to kill your brothers and sisters for the swords. I have hidden all of them in specific locations. Difficult to find for even Kami's son. Power is not the way to peace, the sage said while Sato chuckled. It was the chuckle of a man who was angry at being denied what was his, or so he thought. Sato blinked out of sight and appeared behind the Rikudo Sennin. Naruto and Kasumi widened their eyes while Sato smiled. This wasn't something you could learn from a history book. No, not at all. Then I'll find them. I'll find them all. I already have the light. Once I find my swords I will destroy this world that Kasama made. I'll take her place from the throne. I'll rule the heavens as God. Sato yelled and brought his sword to the sage's end before he held out his hand. Shinra Tensei, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god, the sage shouted as the 9 Bayu jumped out of the way. Immediately Sato was blasted from behind him by an invisible force, sending the sword user into the ground with a heavy crush. Sato gasped and into a wall while cursing. I don't want to fight you, but I will make you see the truth, the Rikudo Sennin said, and Sato got to his feet. He brushed his lip free of some bee and smirked. And I'll make you and those pieces of trash know the power of a god, Sato said while everyone saw his body covered in white flames. His eyes turned serious and Kasumi shuddered, or rather it was Tsukasa who caused that shudder that Kasumi noticed. She seemed afraid of her own power. Finally, I've been waiting for this, Shukaku said while the Rikudo Sennin took out his sword. He also held out another of his hands and faced it towards Sato. Bansho Tennen, heavenly attraction of all creation, the sage said, and Sato felt his body pulled towards everyone. Gyuki s the ground with his fists and immediately an earthquake came around, but Sato s his sword into the ground, stopping his unwanted advancement towards the Rikudo Sennin. Kurama and the other Bayu jumped into the air and unhinged their features, turning into their beast forms. Sato looked at all the nice enormous beasts while the Rikudo Sennin stood on top of Kurama's head, his arms were folded and he glared at Sato. Stop while you have the option, he said, but his words fell on deaf ears as Sato stood to his feet. You think they change anything? Do you? No, they don't, they have just made it better for me, Sato said as he did a few hand sign. Sato bit his thumb and traced the bee on the ground. He willed the white fire to go inside the bee and immediately light shined over the entire region. The Rikudo Sennin covered his eyes and so did the Bayu. What the hell is happening? Saiken asked before the light stopped shining. The sight they all saw made them widen their eyes. Sato chuckled as he stood up while folding his arms. He was laughing like a complete maniac. Naruto and Kasumi widened their eyes before gulping. It was enormous. Tsukasa, is that you? Kasumi asked, and Tsukasa reluctantly nodded her head. Why, yes it is, Tsukasa said while Kasumi widened her eyes. Naruto gulped, but soon all went black. Naruto and Kasumi gasped out before they were brought out of their vision. Outside, present, Naruto and Kasumi opened their eyes to see that they were back in their world. The birds were chirping, the water of the lake was still, and the only thing that could be heard was the wind blowing. Naruto immediately balled his fists. What happened? Why did we leave? Naruto asked, and Kyubi seemed to be confused as well. They weren't distracted, so they should have kept it going, but for some reason the vision was stopped at its final piece. I don't get it either, what happened? Nanabi asked, and Kasumi stood to her feet. It was Tsukasa. She said that seeing this wouldn't make much sense to us unless Naruto-kun fought Sato himself. Kasumi said, and everyone glanced at the blonde who was in deep thought. The amazing pressure of those two was insane to believe. How could he match up to that? Cage or not, he was only 15. That was just shocking, and Naruto trembled. Not from fear, not from anxiety, but excitement. The blonde grinned and touched his swords. Fukun, Reiga, Yugisa, Tyron, we're all about to get a little more serious, Naruto said to his swords, and each sentient being wondered what he was talking about, but they could tell that the blonde was genuinely happy right now, and he truly was. Naruto stood to his feet and grinned while turning around. I'm going back to the Hokage mansion, but I'll be back in a few minutes. Kyubi-chan, we're going to restart my training for Yang release as well as work on my Yin release. I'm not working on anything else until those two are down to the wire, Naruto said as he dispelled his clones who were off in the far distance training. All their memories flooded him. All memories of the Byakugan, Juken, Sharingan, Shinseinigan, and all his other techniques and bloodlines. He remembered them all. Kyubi smiled with a nod while Kasumi stretched. She emmed her leg muscles and smiled. I might as well find Guy now. Tsukasa not going to be mastered in a day, Kasumi said, walking off though rather slowly since the seals were still weighing her down. Meanwhile, Naruto Hiraishi ed out of sight, leaving the three Beiyu in the clearing. Were we worried for nothing? When we showed him the vision, we meant it for him to know the pressure of Sato in the world, but now he's just giddy now, Nanabe said, and Nibi chuckled. It's just like him, I'm sure. I guess we didn't give him enough credit, Nibi said, and Kyubi nodded. That's right. He's still young, so he's bound to get stronger, and he'll have our help too, won't he? Kyubi asked. Nibi and Nanabe smiled with nods of their own while the two left their friend in the clearing. Kyubi straightened her kimono and sat in the woods. Still, Tsukasa was a sight to see. If she's ever let out, then I wonder what will happen, Kyubi said in her thoughts before dismissing them to think something else for the time being. She really would have to get Naruto back to his training. He was a little too focused on his cage duties. With Naruto, the blonde Rokudaime Hokage flashed into his office and immediately snapped his fingers. Two Anbu jumped to the ground and Naruto turned around while shuffling some papers around. He cleared his desk full of the paperwork in front of him and placed it inside the drawers. Notify Kurenai-chan and Shizune-chan. I'm going to be training for 1 week in my personal training ground. The only one who are allowed to know where I am are them, and the members of the Uzumaki Namikaze Inuzuka compound. I want no disturbances unless I'm notified. Understood, Naruto asked, and the Anbu nodded immediately to Naruto's orders. The blonde smiled as turned around. Also, relay this message to Haku-chan, Naruto said, and the two Anbu nodded their heads fast to Naruto's words just before the blonde vanished back to his training ground. With Sasuke, the Uchiha opened his eyes and groaned while leaning up. His body really hurt like hell. He hadn't felt such a pain in a long time that he could remember. Man, what hit me? He asked himself before he remembered his summoning. He did it. He got the contract with the crows. Now all he had to do was train with them to hone more of his skills for the war, and he would be ready. Sasuke leaned up and soon cursed as he noticed bandages around his arm. Oh Sasuke, you're up, Itachi said, smiling as he held a tray with some water and medicine. Sasuke watched him set the tray down while the Uchiha stiffened. Yeah, I'm up now. How long was I out? Sasuke asked, and Itachi smiled while looking out the window. He could see the sun just slowly going down, which meant that it was almost sunset. Most of the day and last night. I'm impressed you woke up before I did. When I did it, I was out for 2 days. I had Kar-san worried sick about me, Itachi said, and Sasuke snorted while trying to get to his feet, but was ultimately stopped by the older Uchiha. Sasuke, you need to rest some more. Your body is in pain at the moment. It's always like this. By tomorrow you will be back and ready to train with me, so just sleep for now, Itachi said, and Sasuke sighed while leaning his head back to the pillow. Where is Naruto? Sasuke asked, and Itachi pointed to the Hokage mansion, or at least where he assumed the blonde might be. Probably doing his work for all I know, but don't worry about him. Now I have some things that I need to handle, but I expect you to rest, understood? Itachi asked, and Sasuke grumbled while turning his head to the side. I'm not a child, he whined, and Itachi smiled while closing the door. He sighed and soon vanished in a number of crows, just like his little brother would be doing in a few days. For right now, Itachi had to speak with Genma about things concerning the young Uchiha. In Sunagakur, Temari came racing into the house only to see Kankuro cleaning out the sand in his puppets along with Gaara, who was looking over some type of scroll. She held a scroll in her hands and sighed. Gaara, Kankuro, come here and look at this, Temari said, and the two immediately stopped what they were doing. Both didn't know that their sister could be so anxious about something, but they had seen some of the color fade from her face. Whoa Temari, you look like you've seen a ghost, Kankuro said, and Temari snorted. You would too when you read this, Temari said, and Gaara took the scroll from her and opened it. He looked through it before narrowing his eyes. Kankuro and Temari could feel the sudden spike in chakra while Gaara handed the scroll to Kankuro. The older brother scanned its contents and handed only 2 words. Well, he said while Temari sweet dropped. It was a Suna report that told of Konoha and Taki going to war over the Nanabe Jinchuriki. It sure wasn't a call for help from Konoha or anything, but to still know about it was nothing short of amazing. What do you think Naruto is thinking? Temari asked, and Gaara looked out the window. He is protecting what's important to him. It read that they are fighting over the Nanabe Jinchuriki. This person must be important to him or he wouldn't do this. Why have you given this to us? Gaara asked, and Temari scratched her cheek. She then coughed lightly in her hand and smiled. Baki said that we were assigned to go to Konoha and assist them only because it's a way of making it even on the invasion, Temari said while Kankuro widened his eyes. What? We're getting involved too. Oh come on man. This is war we're talking about here, he said, and Gaara walked up the stairs. To protect one's friends people go to plenty of length. We'll be moving out tomorrow, Gaara said, and Temari smiled. You got it Godime Kazekage sir, Temari said, and Gaara twitched before turning around. I'm not the Godime Kazekage. I'm just in the running for it. You know that very well Temari, Gaara said before walking up the stairs. Yes, he was trying to the same as Naruto. Gaara wanted to protect everyone. He wanted them to see him for himself and not for the Shukaku, and the best way to do that was to show everyone that he could do it by becoming the next Kazekage. Some of his friends like Sari, Matsuri, Korobi and Yaoki supported him all the way with his endeavors. Gaara actually had a high percentage vote of the people in Suna, though some were still scared of him, but he could understand that. Well yeah Gaara, but who in this village is more powerful than you? Temari asked, and while Gaara couldn't answer that, he was still sure that he needed more time before gaining Suna's approval. It's of no consequence. Let's go pack. We're in for a long day, Gaara said, and Temari nodded her head to his words as she and Kankuro walked off, with the later complaining about the entire ordeal. In Iwagakure, the leader of Taki, Horio Fura, widened his eyes to Onoki's words and was even more surprised that the Tsuchikage would want in on this war. Taki and Iwa were by no means allies due to the Taki's former alliance with Konoha, but now that all just changed. Tsuchikage don't know. I'm afraid I don't understand. What would Iwa gain out of this war? Horio asked, and Onoki grinned while placing his hand on the table. Simple, we gain the destruction of Konoha that should have happened in the Third Great Shinobi War. Something that I couldn't do because of the brat's father. If he's gone then it'll be that much easier, Onoki said, and Horio smiled. First our allies, then Akatsuki and now Iwa. I never imagined that this war would have such an after effect. Well, that's all the more reason that I must do this, Horio said in thought before he held out his hand. I would love to have Iwa's cooperation in this coming war, Horio said, and Onoki nodded. Horio turned to leave. He quickly opened and closed the door before the door opened again as Onoki expected while seeing Kuretsuki come in. GG, this is stupid. It's not our war. This is going to come back and bite us in the ear if you don't start thinking straight, she said, and Onoki gave a hidden smile much to Kuretsuki's anxiety. It's not that she liked Konoha or that unbearable mutt who lived there, but damn it, they did help her in that one mission. I am thinking clearly, Kuretsuki. You really think I'm that guided by my emotions? I know that this war will turn out in Taki's fall, Onoki said, and Kuretsuki widened her eyes. What are you spouting, Gramps? She asked, and Onoki beckoned her closer and so she came. She placed her ear to his lips while the old man smirked and spoke. Kuretsuki, over the course of the talk, widened her eyes to every word that he was saying and gasped. You expect me to take that mission? She asked, and Onoki shrugged his shoulders at her while smiling. Mare, if you don't want to do it then I'll go and give it to your father then, Onoki said, getting up before Kuretsuki widened her eyes. No, I'll do it. When do I leave? She asked with a smile. She knew her grandfather hadn't gone senile just yet. It wasn't like him at all, or maybe it was and she just didn't think about it like that. You leave in 3 days. Take this scroll and don't get caught. It'll be tough to explain if you do to Konoha. Also don't forget to take the sword with you, Onoki said, and Kuretsuki nodded her head before rushing out of the door with a smile on her face. No one's going to defeat Konoha except for Iwa. I won't tolerate it, Taki. Not in the least, Onoki said before getting back to his work until someone dropped down. Are you sure Kuretsuki is up for it? He asked. It was Kuretsuki's father, Kitsuki, also known as Onoki's son. Said Tsuchikage looked at his son in front of him and smiled. I'm sure she'll do just fine. Did you see that smile on her face? She almost acts like she can't wait to go, Onoki said, and Kitsuki sighed, rubbing the back of his head. Does this have anything to do with a stupid mutt from Konoha that she might have met? Kitsuki asked, and Onoki snickered while stopping his work to talk. What do I know? She might like someone there. Possibly an Inuzuka for all I know, Onoki said, and Kitsuki groaned while face-palming his face. Yeah, his face. I can only imagine that future. Not that I want to ugh, he said before vanishing, much to Onoki's humor. In Kirigakure, Mei sighed while looking out the window. She had finished all her paperwork, but now she was bored. It had been only 2 or 3 weeks since she left her new lover behind to tend to Kiri. She wondered how the blonde was doing in his endeavors as the Hokage. It really irked her that she didn't get to spend that much time with him. Mei leaned into her chair and merely gave the ceiling a longing look. So bored. If nothing happens in the next 3 minutes, then I'm jumping out the window, Mei said in her thoughts, and just like to answer her prayers, there was a knock at the door. Come in, she said, not really caring at the moment who she got for a visitor so long as she had someone to speak to. Excuse me, Mei-sama, Chojuro said, coming through the door. Mei looked up and smiled at one of her subordinates. Chojuro, what seems to be the problem? Mei asked, looking at Chojuro's anxious face. He held a scroll in his hands and offered it to Mei. She quickly unfurled it and read down the entire thing. Mei immediately widened her visible eye to the words and looked out the window. Now I wish for 30 million yen to fall in front of my face, Mei said with a smile in her thoughts. Granted, a war wasn't what she normally liked to hear about, but anything to keep things interesting for her. This might even warrant another trip to Konoha. All these different emotions were lost to Chojuro, who didn't know what to think. His Mizukage seemed happy that Konoha was going to war. It really made him gulp at what she could be thinking about, but he sure wasn't going to ask lest she threaten him like she did on a daily basis. He would rather not like to be melted into oblivion. Chojuro, be a dear and escort me to Konoha, would you? Mei asked, and Chojuro gulped with a simple nod of his head as he walked off, with Mei still smiling in front of the scroll. No one could understand what someone like her was thinking. It must have been either something freaky or something bad. Maybe it was something freaky bad. Chojuro didn't want to think about it. In Kumogakure, a read over the scroll that Mabui gave him and sighed. He didn't know what to think. Konoha and Taki going to war over a Jinchuriki. Of course, if it was Yugito, then he could see it. Kumo would be desperate to get her back even at the cost of war, but that wasn't the case. It was Taki and Konoha's problem. A new Naruto's personality from meeting him. The blonde was sort of like his father. Didn't want others to get involved in his problems if it meant that they would be alright. It was a wonder why Naruto hadn't requested aid from Kumo, Kiri or Suna. They were Konoha's allies after all, but then figured it out. A great nation calling for help to deal with a small country village would damage its reputation, and Naruto couldn't have that, not to mention that it would be a riot at a cage meeting. How shall we respond, Reikage-sama? Mabui asked, and looked at the note a little more. He snorted and ate it on the table. That little brat, not knowing when to ask someone for help. Ugh, the things I do to try and solve problems. Where is Samui? Asked. On a mission, Mabui answered. Omoi, mission. Narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth. How did he not freaking know this S? Oh, this was a load of S to deal with. Especially when your brother was a rapping idiot. Karui? He asked as a last-ditch effort while Mabui shrugged. Missy, oh wait, she's free. She should be at home right now resting, Mabui said, and breathed a sigh of relief and nodded his head. If all three were gone, then he'd have to send Archoi and see Sending Archoi anywhere was just going to cause more problems than it would ever hope to solve. Summon Karui then and make it fast. I'm not gonna have Yugito-s just cause the brat can't call for some backup, said, and Mabui bowed before leaving to go and do the Raikage's request. What are you thinking, brat? Wondered before sighing and looking back at his work. Back in Konoha, that night. Across the Hokage, personal training ground were hundreds of kunai, shuriken and other weapons poised across the field of different shapes and sizes. In that field, the Rokudaime Hokage and his mate, Kyubi, were working over the blonde's yin release. He had made excellent progress. Thanks to the combination of his Shinseinagon and his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, then this was much easier to do for the blonde, but the yang release, Naruto just couldn't do it. He just didn't understand how he was supposed to turn his chakra into life energy. With yin release he could think it into existence, but the idea of channeling life into an inanimate object just didn't make sense to him. Kyubi had told Naruto that she was a product of yin release and yang release. Tsukasa was a product of yin release and yang release for Kasumi, but Kyubi decided to let Naruto have another since he seemed too eager to learn. Naruto-kun, ready to learn the second feature to your Shinseinagon? Kyubi asked, and Naruto looked at the female Beiyu in wonder before nodding his head fast to her words. Kyubi chuckled at his eager face before standing to her feet and wiping off the dirt from her kimono. Alright then, the second feature to the Shinseinagon is that it is able to automatically channel your living chakra into anything else that touches you if you want. Granted, this only happens when you have it activated, but in essence it is like a version of yang release. You can use yin release rather naturally now, can't you? Kyubi asked, and Naruto nodded his head. He really could. Those hundreds of hours practicing with his clones were paying off as he was able to have yin release down to the wire. It was amazing to him that a few weeks ago he couldn't do it worth anything. Now he was able to make swords, kunai, paper, shuriken, demon windmill shuriken, scrolls, and to some extent houses if he had enough detail down. Hell, in about 3 years he could probably make the Hokage mansion if he wanted to. So if I use the Shinseinagon and focus, then I should be able to channel my chakra into the objects, and unlike making them stronger, then I will bring them to life. Naruto asked, and Kyubi nodded. I designed it with that in mind. I was going to teach you yin and yang release, but only after you had gotten the use of natural energy down first, which you didn't, but now that I think about it, then you will need to train with the foxes. I remember at the very beginning of your training that I was teaching you to sense natural energy, but you were far too young. Even now you're still too young to be taught that specifically, but if you become the fox's personal summoner, then that's all fine, Kyubi said, confusing the blonde a little bit, but he came to understand. Aren't I already their summoner? Naruto asked, which earned him a chuckle from Kyubi while she explained. With Tsume and Hana. Hana was currently checking the official doents of all the clan pets around the grounds, as she had to make sure that they were fit for battle. Naturally, she had Haku's help, as the Chunin medic team was used to this by now. Checking off the list of another animal, Haku placed it in the cabinet. That's the last one for day, and he checks out okay, Haku said while Hana nodded her head and stretched. God, she was tired from today. She had been training with her mother, who was in the room with her, sighing while she looked at the ceiling from the couch. Is she still pouting? Tsume asked, making the two turn to her. Who, Tsume-sama? Haku asked, and Tsume turned her head with a tired gaze. Tayuya. She hasn't come out of her room since yesterday. Yugao and Kurenai both said that they didn't know what was wrong with her, but Yugao seems to think that it might be due to her practice earlier, Tsume said, and Haku sighed, causing both female Inuzuka to turn to her. You know something, don't you? Anko said, coming out of the blue with Yugito and Fu right behind her. Huh, what do you mean? Haku asked, and Fu snickered. It's written all over your face. Should I make a truth seal? Fu asked while everyone turned to look at her incredulously. You have a seal for everything, don't you? Yugito asked, and Fu ed her head to the side. So she loved Fuinjutsu to death now. Sue her for all she could care. Maybe, Fu said, which got a sweet drop from everyone before they saw the door open. They saw Kurenai and Yugao coming through the door, tired as all hell. Ugh, shower. I really need a shower. Then I can go to my room, Yugao said while the others looked at them impassively. Kurenai nodded, understanding the same thing before turning her head. Hey Anko, she said before walking down the hall. Anko blinked her surprise, whiling her head to the side. Hey Nai-chan. Wait, hold up. Anko shouted, making Kurenai and Yugao turn to her. Both wondered what Anko's deal was while Yugito spoke. When did you live here? She asked, and making the Genjutsu mistress and Kenjutsu mistress glance at each other. Since yesterday. Naruto-kun admitted us to his clan. We preformed the ceremonies and everything. I gave Naruto-kun one of my prized Genjutsu scrolls, and Yugao gave Naruto-kun a very special dagger handed down from her family. It was really nice, Kurenai said while Fu gasped. Why weren't we informed about it? She asked, and Yugao rubbed her head. Well, Naruto-kun hasn't come home yet. I think he would have told you when he came through the door, Yugao said, and on that note the door opened, but not to what everyone expected. Tenten, move. I said I would train with Kiba-kun. Ino yelled. Whole Tenten growled. You didn't even like him until a month ago. I was his girlfriend way before you. Tenten shouted, and Ino growled. Damn it, you're worse than Forehead, Ino said, and Tenten snorted. Shut up, Ino, before I shove this heavy kunai up your butt, Tenten retorted before both females made it inside and raced to go find Kiba's room, leaving everyone else in the dark. Since when did Kiba become a stud? Haku asked, and Anko sighed. Who knows, but back to the topic, and now that you guys are here, would you mind telling us what the hell is up with Tayuya? Anko asked, and Yugao sighed. Just a minute. Let me take a shower and I'll tell you guys everything, she answered, and the others seemed to accept that answer as the two mistresses left them alone. With Tayuya, the redhead laid in her bed while biting her covers. That damn bee telling her to hold back her punches. She was a damn insult to the shinobi name. In fact, how the hell was she still alive even? She sucked. She was borderline genin where she should be mid-chunin by this time. It was AF, joke. Why Naruto didn't get rid of her Tayuya didn't know. He had so much better in his forces that he didn't need her. Why did he keep her in the program? Maybe she should ask him when he returned. It just didn't make any sense. In any case, why did she even care? Until recently this was just a way to not S from Orochimaru along with Kimimaro, so why did she care if Naruto kept her? Was she thinking that hard about him? Not F, way in F, hell. Damn it, I need to get some sleep. Kimimaro and I are supposed to be training tomorrow for F's sake. Ugh, Tayuya said, bringing the covers over her until she heard a yell. Ino, Tenten. Wait, stop it. I said I'm tired. No, don't touch that. It's delicate. Would you stop fighting and work together to use it better? Kiba yelled, and Tayuya growled. This is so damn stupid, Tayuya said to herself before closing her eyes. With Kushina, the female Uzumaki was currently walking back home towards the compound. The Shinobi Council had just relayed to her Naruto's wishes, and she was named as the first commander of the group of Shinobi. Kushina was happy that her son thought so much of her skills, but under her was Kimimaro for the captain, and currently the two were right beside each other. Why are you so tall? Kushina suddenly asked, and Kimimaro turned to her. Shizune-san has instructed me that I must increase my calcium intake or I risk the run of infection to my bones again, Kimimaro said, drinking a small box of milk. Kushina snorted and nodded. I see. That must be nice then. She does know what she's talking about since Naruto named her the head of the medical department until Tsunade returns, Kushina said, and Kimimaro nodded his head before they saw someone drop to the ground. Kushina narrowed her eyes at the young man while Kimimaro glared. Seeing the tacky headband, both took out their weapons and charged. What are you doing here? Answer fast, as I don't have that much patience, Kushina said, and the genin gulped. Wait, my name is Shibuki. I came to talk with your Hokage, it is urgent. I'm one of the few who think that Taki is going too far, and I want to speak with your Hokage about reaching an agreement, Shibuki said, and Kushina narrowed her eyes. Kimimaro did the same to the cowering boy before turning to Kushina. What should we do? He asked, and Kushina sighed. She thought for a few minutes and placed her sword away from the boy's tea. Let's take him to the prison. We'll inform Sochi about his appearance tomorrow when we see him, Kushina said, and Kimimaro agreed with her plan before the two shunshined out of sight. With Naruto, the blonde held his Shinseinigan active while channeling his chakra into a kunai. He was imagining a snake, a kunai-shaped snake. Its body all S, and it was able to talk. It could transform back into a kunai at will, and it could sustain life. Naruto growled and poured more chakra before he huffed. Did I do it? Naruto asked, and before long he widened his eyes and smiled. In his hands was a snake that was looking at him like he was the strangest thing in the world. It shifted its head to the side and the blonde smiled. "Kyubi-chan, I did it. See, I did it. Right?" Naruto asked, jumping up and down. What did you do?" the snake asked, and Naruto smiled even more. He did the yang release. Finally. Now he could start his project. "Yes, Naruto-kun, you have done it perfectly. Great work," Kyubi said, and Naruto nodded his head fast to her words while the snake sweet dropped. "What did he do?" the snake asked again, but Naruto was too happy to hear him at the moment as the snake merely shrugged his shoulder and off somewhere, not wanting to be with the blonde anymore. Naruto finally calmed down and huffed while wiping the sweat from his brow. He was really up till the wee hours of the morning and he still wasn't tired yet. It felt amazing to have this much energy. "Any Kyubi-chan, is it possible to make a new bloodline from using yin-yang release?" Naruto asked, and Kyubi nodded her head. "I don't see why you couldn't. What do you have in mind?" "Granted, it will be much harder than not, but try it," Kyubi said, and Naruto smiled. "It might not be as simple as it sounds, but hard. I also don't know what elements it might take to make this, but I still think I can make it work out. I call it Usatan, meteor release," Naruto said, and Kyubi looked at the blonde with a bit of mild interest. He was already starting to come up with names for new bloodlines. Well, he was Kekkei Genkai no Naruto after all. He might be the only one to have the most number of bloodlines in history. "How about you just focus on the ones that you have and then worry about making others? I'm sure all the things going on in that head of yours are bound to catch some attention. You might even become a Kekkei Tota," Kyubi said, and that immediately got Naruto interested. "What's that?" Naruto asked, and Kyubi chuckled. "A Kekkei Tota is an advanced nature Kekkei Genkai. It is only given by selective bloodlines. It's the combination of 3 natures. I wouldn't know what combines what to make your meteor release, but I'd imagine that Doton was one of them," Kyubi said, and Naruto nodded as he opened his palms. He looked at his right and left hand while sighing. He tried to bring them together. "Think of what you want and make it a reality while bringing it to life." Kyubi watched as Naruto covered Naruto's hands. It took the form of a small fox and soon came to life. Naruto smiled and nodded. "I got it down," Naruto said, and soon the fox yipped at him before rubbing his cheek sensually. "Why did you do that?" Kyubi asked, and Naruto smiled while turning to her. "My child. This little guy is going to be my child's familiar when I have one. Just like Kasumi-chan is to me. I want her to be happy when she sees this," Naruto said, and Kyubi snorted. "You almost sound like you're having a child right now," she said, and Naruto shook his head. "I know that I won't, but Kasumi hobby is affecting me. Having kids with all of you, Kyubi-chan, Fu-chan, Haku-chan, Sum-chan, Hana-chan, Yugito-chan, Anko-chan, Kurenai-chan and Yugao-chan. I really like Nanabe, Nibi and Tayuya, but I want to be slow with them as well as Mei-chan," Naruto said while the small yellow fox yipped at his creator. It was the second animal that the blonde was able to make. "Come on, Kyubi-chan, let's go home. We have lots of things to do," Naruto said, and Kyubi agreed as the fox took residence on his shoulder. Naruto scooped Kyubi into his arms, making her blush while he harassed home. He still had much to do. Hokage Mansion, 3 days later. Naruto groaned as his room was swamped. He came back earlier than he planned. The blonde had spent the last 3 days training his off, all the while trying to perfect the yang release, which was now becoming easier to him. Also, he was trying to add more natures to his Rasengan. He was already coming up with one for wind natures. The Raisin Shuriken he would call it, but that would have to wait for right now. Now he was in his office signing doents while people tapped their feet. Who were these people, you ask? Why, they were the Suna siblings, Kuretsuki from Iwa, Mei from Kiri, Karui from Kumo and Shibuki from Taki. Kiba was also in the room with Naruto observing things. "How did any of you even know about the war?" Naruto asked, and people glanced at each other. "Are you kidding? It's the biggest thing right now. Our villagers told us. You have a lot of balls," Karui said, and Naruto sighed. "I didn't want to ask for any help," he said, and Mei smiled. "Oh, Naruto-kun, you don't need to be embarrassed around me. We're lovers, aren't we?" Mei cooed, making the blonde blush. Gaara glared at the blonde and Naruto laughed nervously while Temari and Kankuro glared at him incredulously. "Naruto's been with the Mizukage. Kankuro asked. The blonde shrugged, and before long Kankuro fell to the ground on his knees and bowed. "Oh Supreme Lord, please instruct me in your ways," he said as everyone sweet-dropped. "Hey Kuretsuki-chan. I didn't think I'd see you so soon," Kiba said, getting up from his chair while Kuretsuki snorted, looking the opposite way. "I didn't come here for you," she said to him, and Kiba chuckled while patting her on the shoulder. "It's all good. Akamaru, say hello to Kuretsuki-chan. You remember her, right?" Kiba asked his dog, and Akamaru looked at Kuretsuki. She stared back and the dog yipped as he licked her cheek. Kuretsuki stuttered while Kiba smiled. "He likes you," the Inuzuka stated while Temari and Karui glanced at him, or Karui was glancing at the dog specifically. "Right, well, first mind telling me what Taki is doing here?" Naruto asked, and everyone turned tense as they looked at Shibuki. The boy cowered underneath the glares while he tried to speak. "Yes, Hokage-sama, I'm Shibuki. My father was the former leader of Taki. As its next one, I beg of you. Please don't destroy Taki. They are being influenced. Taki knows of Konoha's strength. This war is I know that Horio is planning something. For the Taki that my father loved, I beg that you don't destroy them," Shibuki said, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. "It's not like I want to, Shibuki-san. I'm actually surprised that you came here by yourself. I kind of admire that commitment, but the fact is that Taki did declare war on Konoha. As Hokage, I can't take that lightly. Not if it's my village," Naruto said, and Shibuki nodded his head. "I also heard that they were trying to get Iwa to back him up," Naruto said, glancing at Kuretsuki, who sighed. "Yeah, that was true, but Gramps wanted me to give you this note in this scroll. He claimed that it was very important that you read it," Kuretsuki responded, and Naruto sighed. He took the scroll in his hands and looked it over. This just wasn't his day. "So why is Suna here?" "Not that I'm not happy to see Gaara at all, but you said Suna sent you?" Naruto asked, and Temari nodded. "Baki said something about being even," she said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything to that. "If you say so, now let me read this," Naruto said as he glanced the scroll over again. "Hokage of Konoha, I'm gonna make this clear, brat. Because of your father, Iwa still hates Konoha in anything that they do, but we're not stupid. As Tsuchikage, I have sent my men to war since most believe that they can take Konoha off the map. I know this is far from truth, and you'd better make me right. I refuse to have Taki do something that Iwa should be able to do. That is why I will have Kuretsuki assist Konoha in its endeavors. She is your only ally as well as my granddaughter. I want her back alive. If I don't get her, then it will be your head crushed like a sandwich." Taki said that they plan on converging on Konoha in 1 month. "Better be ready, brat. I'm not gonna sully my hands with such a thing. I just won't stand for the thought of Konoha losing to some poor country and its allies. Win, brat, and let me know that I didn't waste my time. Tsuchikage of Iwa, Onoki." Naruto snorted and then chuckled lightly. He just might have liked the Tsuchikage a little more than before, for all he knew. "All right then. Kiba, show Karui-san and Kuretsuki-san to their hotels along with Temari, Gaara, and Kankuro. We'll go over the plans later," Naruto said, and Kiba nodded as everyone followed him out. "You have nice eyes, you know that?" Kiba asked, looking at Karui before the redhead girl snorted. "Where did that idiotic comment from?" she asked as Kiba opened the door for everyone to leave the area, allowing Naruto to get his work done. "Just stating the obvious. Don't get so bent out of shape. We are allies, aren't we?" Kiba asked as the door closed before Naruto's swords hummed. "Naruto-sama, she was here. Sira, she was just in this room. That girl, Kuretsuki has her somewhere. I don't know where, but Sira was right in this room trying to contact us," Reiga suddenly said, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. The sword that embodied Earth. It was here. It was with Kuretsuki, and it was female. The last one, and he would have all 5. He could now start training seriously. "Thanks, Reiga. I'll look into it a little later," Naruto said before he looked up to see Mei and Shibuki. "Shibuki-san, I'll try to come up with something, but I'm not making a promise. 'Cause once I make a promise, I never got back on it. That's my shinobi way, and it's that reason why I can't promise such a thing, but I will try," Naruto said, and Shibuki nodded his head. "I understand, Hokage-sama. I humbly thank you for your precious time," he said before falling out of the office as well. "You seem quite busy," Mei said, and Naruto nodded his head. He sighed and leaned back in the chair. Yeah, I suppose. So tell me, is Kiri going to help as well? Naruto asked and Mei smiled. Well, we were going to, but since us helping embarrasses you so much then we'll just leave you to that, Mei said and Naruto snorted. You're gonna be like that? Naruto asked and Mei snickered. She quickly leaned forward and smiled. I might reconsider leaving, for a small K, she said and Naruto's eyebrow twitched. He could swear that someone out there had to be someone even more flirtatious than Mei. There just had to be. Nibi didn't count as she was the goddess of flirtatiousness. No one was topping that one. If you insist, Databayo, Naruto said as he leaned forward and captured Mei's lips. The auburn-haired woman widened her visible eyes before smiling as she cupped Naruto's cheeks. This was payment for that makeup fight with Sume. A very sensual reward. Mei sighed in bliss before backing away while Naruto smiled. How was that? He asked and Mei hopped to her feet and touched her lips. Where would you like me? Supreme Commander Naruto-kun. Mei asked and Naruto snorted. He doubted this much force was needed to take down Taki, but he didn't know just how right he was. 1 month later, Naruto cracked his knuckles and stood in front of the village gates. The village was in an uproar as beside him were his 3 division commanders, Kushina, Mei and Kanari. It was funny to Naruto that people didn't know Kyuubi would be dictating them in the war, but that was beside the point. Everyone was wearing their respective headbands and shinobi war attire. Behind Kushina were her 2 captains, Itachi and Kimimaro, who were in charge of short to mid-range combat. Kiba was in that group along with Karui, Lee, Guy, Kakashi, Kasumi, Shibuki and Kuretsuki. Behind Kyuubi were her own 2 captains, Nibi and Nanabi. That group consisted of Yugito and Fu along with the other mid to long-range people like Anko, Yugao, Tayuya, Kurenai and Temari, Gara as well as Kankuro. Then there was Mei, who was in charge of the backup division, which was made for supporting either Kushina's division or Kyuubi's division. Such as Sume, Asuma, Shibi, Chuza, Hiashi, Hinata, Tenten, Shino, Chuji, Neji, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Ino and Yae, even Sakura. Why Naruto had her out he wasn't sure, but he couldn't change that now. He had talked with Tayuya about Sakura's progression and yes, Naruto did want to take her out, but now wouldn't be the time to do that. He need everyone at his disposal. Naruto hadn't taken Sira from Kuretsuki only because he said he would ask for her when the war was over and things weren't so damn hectic. He also didn't need the message to be received this early as he had other things to worry about. Naruto sighed and smiled. Right behind those 3 commanders were the medic lead by Shizune accompanied by Haku and Hana. Ibiki and Inoiki would stay behind in the village with the other interrogation and information departments to not only give out information, but protect the village while Naruto was away. I've left Ibiki-san, Inoiki-san, and Shikaku-san and their respective departments behind for safety. No turning back now. I've had everyone train as hard as they can. I hope we all can return to this place, Naruto said in thought before touching his sword strapped to his both sides of his waist and his back. You guys ready? Naruto asked and the sentient swords smiled. Ready when you are, Naruto-sama, they all said simultaneously, creeping the blonde out slightly, but he got over it. I would give us all an inspirational speech right now. Unfortunately I can't think of one. I can only say that we will all do our best and we will come out in a victory, Databayo. We're Konoha and we protect our own. We are a great nation and will stay as such. Konoha, move out, Naruto shouted as he ran through the gates and into the dirt road. They forces behind him all cheered while Kiba smiled. Don't get hurt, Tenten-chan, Ino-chan. Stay safe, Kuretsuki-chan, Karui-chan, Kiba said and Tenten smiled with a nod as did Ino. I thought I said not to call me Chan, Karui said with a huff, but smiled as she felt the Inuzuka's concern. Meanwhile Kuretsuki just snorted a response. I bet I will get more enemies than you, Kakashi, Guy said, giving the one-eyed Jonin a thumbs up. The lazy Jonin sighed and nodded. Sure, Guy. I'm sure you will not, Kakashi said with that last part underneath his breath. Advance! Advance! Kushina and Kyuubi yelled as people raced after Naruto. The blonde grinned like mad as he turned around. 2-chan, I'm doing it. I'm leading my village. Are you proud of me? Naruto asked, looking up before he pushed chakra to his legs and raced off into the distance with his village. With Taki, a large multitude of Taki shinobi and nearby allies had assembled from Iwa and the other allies. Horio grinned like mad as he stood in front of them all. He looked to his left to see Konan, Sasori and Kisame far off, not really caring when everyone started. I'm getting excited, Kisame said while Sasori stepped out of his puppet Hiroko. How many puppets will I add to my collection? He wondered while Konan sighed. Eyes on the objective, she said, and the two Akatsuki members nodded their heads. Today is the day that will mark the change in history. The day that Konoha will fall to Taki. Advance! Horio yelled, not wasting any time, and charged out. People roared and followed after him, leaving the streets of their fair village behind in the distance. Sasori, Konan and Kisame all assumed their position and ran through the trees and onward to Konoha. Meanwhile, a figure appeared at the top of the Taki head building. He smirked and watched them move. That's right, go and fall to Konoha. Just like I planned, Toby said as he would now begin the next step in his operations. The war of Konoha and Taki had just begun. Omake whodunit. Naruto, we're calling it an Omake now. KG, yep, we're now able to officially call it one. Naruto, cool. Naruto gathered everyone together the night before the war was to begin. He told his plans to them all and everyone agreed. They all could see it made sense, but Tayuya wasn't concerned with that. No, she was snarling at Sakura. Damn, be telling me to hold back. How dare you? I should wring your tea dry so that you never get up again, Tayuya said to herself while Sakura came up to the blonde. Naruto, are you insane? You're acting like an idiot again. I swear that Sasuke-kun is better than you. Sakura hollered and the blonde narrowed his eyes in anger. Soon the lights went out and everyone gasped. They all bumped into each other. Help, ugh. People heard someone scream and soon the lights came back on. The sight they all saw shocked the hell out of them. Sakura's body was embedded with hundreds of kunai in her body. One in her C and the other in her forehead, while others ran down her entire body. What the hell? Who did this? Naruto yelled and people gulped. The blonde growled and the table. Sakura's B was dripping on the floor and staining his map. He spent 30 hours designing plans on that map. Who did this? Naruto demanded and the blonde sighed. It took some time, but he immediately summoned Ibiki and the interrogation division. The place was swamped as everyone could see the danger in Ibiki's eyes. The time of death was 10 minutes before I arrived, which means it was 4 minutes prior to the lights going out. Alright, who did it? You have no escape and your accomplice will be coming with us too, Ibiki said, and everyone glanced at each other. Tayuya gulped and scratched her cheek. We can wait all night if we have to, and trust me, the person will confess, or we'll have other ways of making you talk involving this leaf and this bottle cap, Ibiki said, and people gulped, not wanting to know what he could do with those two things. Oh well, at least the B is S. I'll sleep in prison with a smile on my face, Tayuya said in her thoughts as she raised her hand, then Kushina, then Sume, Hana, Haku, Fu, Yugito, Sasuke, Yugao, Kurenai, Itachi, Tenten, Ino, Kiba, and even Naruto himself. Ibiki widened his eyes as people all raised their hands. All of you? Ibiki asked, and Naruto shrugged. He placed his Hokage robes back on his body and chuckled. B had to S. Now I can sleep without the unnecessary alarm clock, he said, and Ibiki sighed. No arrests were made that night as Naruto wrote them all off and even gave people 30,000 yen for taking care of the first SSS rank mission in history. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.